Hi, this is Josh with InsuranceDesignations.net, and we are again joined by creator of the Burnham System, Ray Burnham. Very grateful to have him joining us here for this little series we've been doing and sharing some of his expertise. Today, Ray, our question is, if you could share just one thing with us about preparing for an insurance exam, what would that be? What would be the most important thing that you would like to share with potential students?
Well, you don't want to waste your time. Given that you don't want to waste your time, you don't want to study what you already know. So once you get the best summary that you can find, obviously the Burnham System, then at that point, each time you go through that summary, you should draw a line through that content that you are sure you already know. That way you'll know that you know it and you won't have to study it again. That means that each time you go through my material over and over, there will be less and less there for you to study. And when it comes to studying, your goal is not to memorize, but instead to try to understand. Over and over and over in your studies, you'll find that you're going to be given a category. Let's take a very fundamental one, the elements of a loss exposure. You're going to be given a category and then asked what the elements of that category are. Now, as you think, well, what would be the elements of a loss exposure? Think to yourself, well, something has to happen to something. Okay, anything else you can think of? Well, no. And then you read the three elements of a loss exposure. First, the subject, what can be damaged or destroyed. Second, the peril or cause of loss. And third, the financial consequence that can be measured as a pennies per share, dollar amount, all kinds of different ways, percent of assets, percent of annual earnings. So the three elements of a loss exposure are the subject, the peril, and the financial consequence. And when you read it the first time, you said something had to happen to something. Well, the something that had to happen was the cause of loss or the peril. To something is the subject. So you got 2 out of 3. You can cross off the subject and cause of loss. And the next time you go through to study, you have to only remember that there is a financial consequence measured in some way. So when you study that summary, your goal is to cross off as much as you possibly can and ultimately to have it all crossed off before you take the real examination. If you study that way where you try to think about what would be the elements, and then when you immediately read the elements that you hadn't thought of within that category, then it will dawn on you, I see why that's an element of that category. And once you understand it once, it won't tend to stay with you for just a little while. It might stay with you for the rest of your life. All you have to do is think about it once you understand it.
Great, thank you very much, Ray.
Okay, I got one more thing if I may throw in, and that is we had spoken about how much time a person spends, that is one of the 2 costs of earning any designation. And I should point out that in the 3 surveys I have done so far of my patrons, in 2 of them, my students indicated that they cut their study time to just under half of what it otherwise would have been. In the 3rd, it was just over half of what it otherwise would have been. And to put that or those things in numbers, I then asked, as part of that survey, how long does it take you to prepare without the Burnham System? How long with the Burnham System in order to get the difference? Then I asked how many weekly assignments were there in the course that you took, and what your hourly earnings are, easily determined by dividing your annual income by 2,000. And then I asked what's your chance of passing without the Burnham System, and with the Burnham System, and that gives a value of the Burnham System based only on the time you saved in preparation. And that value of time savings times the chance of passing with the Burnham System divided by the chance of passing without the Burnham System came out to $2,575.27. Call it roughly $2,500 for the average student per course. And hence you can see, even though you're not counting the value of the education, which it should be greatly higher, just time saved indicates the Burnham System's value somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,500, at least in 2004.
Well, again, Ray, thank you for that very thoughtful answer. We do hope that your method of study would be beneficial to those who are currently studying for the test, and we hope that our website is also a great tool in assisting each of you. So until our next post, we thank you for joining us and hope that we're providing a useful resource.